This class is to help you with your back, your lower back. So if you have some lower back discomfort or possibly pain, first, I'm sorry going through that. I know how terrible it can feel and it can be, but this class and myself are here to help you with that. So I invite you to grab your yoga mat, and you can grab 2 blocks, maybe for pretty much just one pose really, and then maybe a blanket or a towel for your knees and your elbows for also just one pose. I'm going to suffer and not use one just because it's going to be in the way a little bit for me. So come into a cross-legged seat, sitting up tall, and we'll just connect with our breath for a moment because that is vital for the work that we're going to be doing. So close your eyes. Ground your sit bones and lengthen your spine. Bring your attention to your belly. Close your mouth. And I invite you to just try breathing through your nose with your mouth closed. Take a big inhale and balloon the belly out and forward. Exhale, empty out the breath. Just feel the belly button pull backwards. Inhale, balloon the belly out and forward. Exhale, empty out the breath. Inhale. Exhale. And one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Slowly release. And gently float open your eyes, allowing light to come into your vision. I want to take a moment to get in some twists. So make sure you're sitting up with a tall spine. And as mentioned many times before, if you are falling backwards, just in the sitting position, please sit on a folded blanket or towel. It'll help you from falling backwards and protect your lower back. We won't be here for very long. Okay, so sitting up tall, inhale. And exhale, rotate and twist over toward the right. Your left palm, the back of the palm is outside the thigh. And the right palm is behind you. Make sure you bend the elbows so that you're really using the arms. And you're twisting with the torso and not just your head and neck turning back, because that's kind of cheating. And I want you to get the full benefit. So inhale and exhale. Keep rotating toward the right. Keep the spine tall, so you don't want a collapsed spine. You really want to keep that lifting action and breathing into the belly, and just see how that feels in your lower back. Just stay with your breath. And very slowly release and twist all the way over toward the left. Back of the palm, right back of the palm onto the thigh. Left palm behind. You can bend the elbow just to give you a little bit more leverage. And the head and the neck will turn last. And just notice how it feels to turn, to twist, rotate on the other side. Stay with your breath. Keep that spine lengthening. And now very slowly release. We always do habitual things in our life, in our body. So we're going to switch the crossing of our legs. And just wiggle so that you are on your sit bones. And we're going to start with the left again. So rotate over to the left, sitting up tall. And keep the arms straight and strong so they are your resistance to help you twist. Stay with the breath. And slowly release all the way over toward the right. Sitting up tall. Keep twisting over to the right. Notice how it feels the second time. Keep lengthening the spine. And slowly come back to center. And now just take a moment and just shake out the legs from having them, the knees bent, wiggle the legs in and out. Okay, so the next part, we're going to lay on our back. So scoot your butt to your heels, lay down. And just take a moment to settle in on the back of your body, the back side. And notice how your lower back is feeling. Now, you can, in this position, we're going to be here for a few poses. You can keep the knees bent, but I invite you to see what this feels like with the legs straight, because we're going to focus on the neck for a moment because it's part of your spine. Okay, so now just slowly draw the lower back to the mat so that there's not a whole lot of space. It'll just help you in this position just for a moment. And try stretching out your legs. Okay, so I'm going to take your left hand, reach it down, and wrap your fingers around. You can relax your feet, but let your legs be heavy. Wrap your finger around the side of the mat. Your thumb will be on top. So this is my left hand. And now I'm going to take my hair out because it's going to get in the way, and I recommend you do that if you need to. You're going to take your head and tilt your right ear to your right shoulder. Keep pulling down with your left palm. So you're getting a nice stretch into the left side of the neck and the upper trap. So keep reaching down, keep the arms straight, and you can have control of how much you want to laterally tilt your head, right ear to right shoulder. You can also go deeper by taking the right palm to the left side of the head and giving it a little bit more pressure. But keep in mind, this can be intense, especially if you hold tension in your neck and upper trap. So really be kind to yourself and don't go for an extreme amount of pressure. Stay with your breath. And very slowly release the palm, come back to center, release the right palm. So make sure you're back to center. And now you're going to reach that right arm down, wrap around the mat, fingers around the mat, thumb on top, and start to laterally tilt your left ear to your left shoulder. And try to keep the right shoulder on the mat, and it could be different on this side. It could be different on either side. It really depends on what's going on in your body. And again, we'll take the left palm to the right side of the head. If you did it on the other side, just make sure you do it on the next side. And see how it feels on the right side of the neck and the upper trap. And always to release tension, the breath is really key. It's very important to let the breath and energy release that space that's just really just locking everything up for you. Okay, now slowly release the left palm, bring your head and neck back to center, and slowly bend the knees. Place your feet on the mat and just pause for a moment. You can fix the shoulders. And I just want you to explore the natural position of your lower back. So as you can see, I am sliding my fingers, my hand right into my lower back. And I want you to explore the difference. We're going to do this in two different ways. So we're going to play with a pelvic tilt, and this will help you with your lower back and your alignment and just educating you more on how it works together and keeping the length in your lower back. Now, if your hip flexors are tight, you might feel this right now. So I'm going to move my hands out of the way. And so this is an anterior pelvic tilt. So there's a lot of space. The lower back is lifting off the mat. So the tailbone is kind of going toward my head, and the pubic bone is going toward the front of the mat. So from this position, you're going to draw the lower back onto the mat. So now the tailbone is going toward the front of the mat, and the pubic bone is going toward the head. So just play with that. So let the lower back lift into that anterior pelvic tilt, and then let the lower back release. And as you can see with me, it's very subtle, but my body is moving with this pelvic tilt. Now, one other thing I just want you to be mindful of is when you do this, try not to let the bottom ribs just kind of flare open and out, because that's going to affect your lower back, whether you're standing, sitting, or even doing any type of movement practice. So I really want you to think about keeping the bottom ribs in and down as you play with that pelvic tilt. And if it's too much, just work on the pelvic tilt. I just want you to be aware of it. Okay, now slowly become still and draw the lower back into the mat. So you're into that posterior pelvic tilt. The pubic bone is towards your head. We're just going to do a tiny bit of core work. So you're going to keep pressing the lower back. Exhale, lift the upper body and reach your fingers toward the front of the mat. Keep your collarbone broad, and you're going to pretend there's an orange between your chin and your chest. Okay, just so you're not using your neck. So really lift up, and all you're going to do is reach over to the left side, reaching your fingers toward the toes, and exhaling center. And then reaching over to the right, exhaling center. Reaching over to the left, exhaling center, reaching over to the right, exhaling center. One more each side. Reach over to the left, exhale center, reach over to the right, exhale center, release, and lower down. And you can let your lower back release into its natural position. So there always is going to be some space because that's the natural curve of our lower back. Okay. So now just pause for a moment and just notice how that felt before we move on. And remember to keep staying with your breath. You can pause and just wait a moment before we start again. This is for you to just take care of your body and your lower back, but also to educate you on what you can do for your lower back. Okay, so we're going to come back to that pelvic tilt. So you're going to press the lower back into the mat. So posterior pelvic tilt. Pubic bone comes toward the head, and now draw the knees toward your chest. Now, when you're doing this, maybe your knees come to this position, and that's okay. You can bring your palms to your shins, but I just want you to try and see how it feels to let the lower back onto the mat, because that's a little bit more of a lengthening of the muscles and stretching out the spine. So your tailbone is going that way toward the front of the mat. And maybe over time, your knees will come toward your chest a little bit more, into a little bit more of a compression. Okay. Now, as you hold on wherever you're at, just slowly just rock, oscillate your hips side to side. You're massaging the lower back and the top of the sacrum. Top of your pelvis, where your waistband is. Okay, now slowly come back to center and release the arms and just stretch your legs up. Now maybe your knees are a little bit more bent because your hamstrings are tight, and that's okay. We're just going to shake it out. So wherever you are, I just want you to stretch your legs with ease as much as you can, and then let the legs and the feet and just flop in all directions, creating some energy, some vibration, and just moving them around, just shaking them out. Okay, now slowly become still. Place the feet on the mat and very slowly roll over onto your belly, coming into Sphinx position. So the elbows are underneath the shoulders, tops of the feet onto the mat. And I want you to feel the energy of pulling the elbows towards your toes and then pulling your chest forward. Back of the neck is long. So you're not cranking your neck or you're not dropping your head. You're just pulling your chest toward the short end of the mat. Stay with your breath. So you are in a back bend, and see how this feels in your lower back. We're trying to take care of the spine in different ways. So from this position, stay here, or maybe lift the pubic bone off the mat a little bit. It's a little bit more work though. Okay, slowly lower down. Take your palms next to your chest, elbows toward the ribs, not out to the side. And then slowly draw the shoulders down the back just to create some space around your chest. And then inhale, lift into your cobra. Keep the collarbone broad, back of the neck long. And slowly lower down. Okay, now curl the toes and shift back. You're going to come into Balasana, child's pose. So bring the big toes together, shift your butt to your heels, and you can lower your forehead to the mat. Hopefully you can hear with my mic. While you're in that position, I'm going to put my hair back up so I can see. So you're in child's pose, and I want you to stretch the arms long, thinking about lengthening your spine. Okay, so reaching the arms forward. I'm not going to put my head on the floor so it doesn't affect the mic and you can still hear me. Okay, now you can do this a couple different ways. There's always so many varieties for poses. You can keep your knees wide or you can bring them closer together. Now, walk the palms over toward the left side, and we're moving around a little bit. So just think left side. Reach your right palm away from your right knee. And then pull the right sit bone or right hip away from your right palm. So all you're trying to do is stretch the right side all the way from the hip, the ribs to the armpit. So getting a nice lat stretch, which connects to your pelvis and your upper arm. So press down, pull that right hip away from the right palm. Breathe into that stretch. You can float your head or you can place your head down, your forehead down. Keep the arms straight and go for one more breath. And slowly walk the palms back to center so you can reach the arms forward a little bit more. Okay. Walk the palms over to the right side of the mat, or just right side, not even the side of the mat, because we're going to turn around again. Because we're actually facing the back of the mat. Okay, so reaching the palms to the right side of your hands. Now press down with the left and pull your left hip sit bone away from your left palm. Again, just getting into the side waist, the ribs, the armpit, the lats. And just breathe into that stretch. Notice how it feels on this side. Does it feel tighter? Does it feel more open? Can you extend more with this arm? And slowly come back to center. Curl the fingers forward. See if you can reach forward a little bit more and really pull the spine out of the pelvis. Create that length. And slowly slide the palms back. Now, just for a moment, I want to review that you can, if that pose is challenging with your lower back, which I know how that can feel, you can place a big folded blanket or towel on your thighs, or you can bring your knees together even more with the blanket or towel so you're not in such a deep forward fold, because, you know, it takes time to get there with back pain. All right, so this is where you might want your blanket or towel. We're going to use the side of the mat. So I'm going to face you for a moment, and then I'll turn to the side so you can see me. You're going to bring your knees wide apart. We're coming into frog. And the key in frog is you want your knees and your ankles in the same line. So they're 90 degrees and the arches are down. So they're dorsiflexed. Come down onto your forearms and enjoy the sensation. And I'm totally serious because it's a big sensation. At least I feel that way. Okay, so as you're in this position, try not to just dump in the lower back, which is really hard to do, and I'll show you from the side view. Okay, so you're keeping everything very active, the upper body and lower body. Okay, now I'm going to turn around so you can see another perspective, and this is not recommended because the floor is hard, but it's only for a moment. So you're trying to get that 90-degree position with both legs, and it takes time to check it out. And see how it's easy to stick your butt out and your belly drop to the floor. That's not great for your lower back, but when you're tight in the hips, and you see I always have to work on my hips, you want to keep that lift and try to get the lower back to just lift toward the sky just a little bit. And then shift forward and back. Make sure you're breathing. I know when poses get intense or positions get intense, you just got to keep breathing through it. It's really important because this is a very, very, very beneficial pose. And I have to say, the less you do it, the harder it is, but the more you do it, it'll become more accessible. That's all I have to say for it right now. Keep shifting forward and back. Okay, slowly shift forward, bring the feet toward each other and start to shift back and just enjoy that groin stretch best you can. If you're anxious to get out, just take your time getting out, but I really want you to try. That is the premise of really doing this work, is to try and allow your body to really release that tension and work together as a whole. And slowly walk the forearms, palms back, drawing the knees closer together. Okay, now we're going to explore the pelvic tilt that we did a moment ago in supine position. So I'm going to fix my shirts just so you can see, because I really want you to play with this. This will give you new information for when you're standing or sitting. We really want to keep the pelvis from just kind of staying tight because of our hips or lower back or whatever else is going on. So you can use your palms to kind of guide you. So if you stick out your butt, this is an anterior pelvic tilt. And we're going to do this excessively. So the tailbone's going back and then the hips are coming forward. So this is an anterior pelvic tilt. And it's also possible for the ribs to flare. We don't want to do that. I'm actually drawing them in. But if the ribs flare, then that's going to even put more pressure on the lower back. Now, use your palms and go for the posterior pelvic tilt. Remember, we're doing this excessively, so you can feel the difference. So the tailbone's going down and forward, which is a lot, and the pubic bone's coming up. Okay, so this is also excessive. So you don't want to be hanging out in this position either. So now, place your palms on your hips and just see if you can have a neutral pelvis with your hips parallel to the floor. Okay? So if you hold onto your hips and then you move them out, you have this shape. It's like a cup or a basin, and you just want to think, if you tilt it forward, you're going to spill the water or your coffee, and if you tilt it back, you're also going to spill it out. So we just want to keep the pelvis in this neutral position and the bottom ribs as well. So when we sit, the hip flexors get really tight, the quads, the lower back. It affects everything, as you probably already know from what you're feeling. So I just want you to be mindful of the pelvic tilt, because it really does have a lot to do with taking care of your back. Okay, let's come into downward facing dog. Curl the toes, lift the knees, push straight arms, keep the heels lifted, stick your butt up and back, and slowly lower the heels. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. One more time. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. And now take the right leg to the sky, bend the knee, open the hip, and exhale the foot between the palms. And you can bring the foot forward any way you would like, especially if you need your hand. My clients do that all the time, and that's fine. Lower the knee down, left knee down, and circle the arms up, lifting the heart and the chest. Squeeze the left glute. Check in with those bottom ribs. Keep drawing them down toward your hips a little bit, just so you're not flaring your ribs. Slowly, left palm down, keep the right arm up. Lift the left knee to twist. Now, when you twist, make sure you're not shifting back and straightening like this is cheating. I really want you to go for that twist, which is going to help you with the pelvis and your spine. Push through that left heel. Look up, see how it is in your neck, how it feels in your neck. Slowly release the right palm down and step back, downward facing dog. Okay, inhale, left leg up, bend the knee, open the hip. Exhale the foot between the palms, right knee down, and circle the arms up. Lift the heart and the chest, squeeze that right glute. Notice how it feels on this side, especially with the right hip flexor and quad, your lower back. Slowly release the right palm down, left arm stays up, curl the right toes, lift the right knee and twist. Keep that pelvis low and straight arms, pushing through that right heel. Keep the pelvis low. And slowly release the left palm down and step back, downward facing dog. Lift the heels, lower down the knees, and just sit on your heels for a moment and roll out the wrists. And this is also a really great stretch for the soles of the feet that we do often in my classes. Okay, shake it out. Now, come onto your back. And that pose, the low lunge twist, is where you could have used a block if you needed. It was only for one pose, but definitely always use props as you need them. Okay, lay on your back and bring your arms into goal pose. So bend your elbows in line with your shoulders. Your knees are bent. Lift your hips and move your hips over 6 inches toward the right. And then draw your knees together over to the left. And then line up your knees and your ankles. Okay, once you're in this position, turn your head and neck over toward the right. So in this spinal twist, stay with your belly breath. See how much your right shoulder is off the mat without any judgment. It's just an observation. But with each breath, does it lower? Maybe a little bit. What can also help, and this is not a goal, this is just, a process with opening your body. That's all it is. You can take your left palm to your thigh, your right thigh. I just don't recommend pressing on the knee joint. You want to go on the thigh. And it can just help ground the legs and keep the pelvis, your hips from opening toward the right. So you're really getting into that spinal twist. Now, if this is too much with your lower back at this moment, you can straighten the legs a lot more, or you can come out of the pose completely. And let's do that. So now slowly bend the knees and roll onto your back and reset your shoulders and your whole spine, your back onto the mat. And we'll go to the other side. So keep the goalpost arms and lift the hips and pivot the hips 6 inches over to the left. Lower the pelvis down and bring the knees together over to the right. And line up, take the time to line up your knees and your ankles. Adjust your shoulders as you need and turn your head and neck over to the left. And if you place the palm, the opposite palm on the thigh, go for it here. It just helps you ground so that you can rotate your spine just a little bit more and see what's happening with the left shoulder. Is it coming down? Is it lifting the same amount as the right? And it's just an observation. And how does that stretch feel in the whole left side body, the lower back, the top of the glute, the middle of the glute? And it really depends on your body where you're actually feeling the opening or even a little bit of tension more than you expected. Go for one more breath. Okay. Slowly release the right palm, bring the knees back to center, adjust your pelvis and your shoulders, and just pause for a moment. Okay, now take the knees together and the feet as wide as the mat, and this just releases your lower back into its natural position. And just stay with your belly breath. And you're welcome to close your eyes and just observe how your body and your lower back felt through all those poses, the transitions, each movement, each side. And I really invite you to come back to this practice to help you feel good in your body and really get rid of that back discomfort or back pain. And very slowly separate the knees, wiggle your feet closer together, roll on to one side and draw yourself upright. You can come into a cross-legged seat. I hope you feel a little bit better. I hope this was helpful in terms of educating you on how you can take care of your body when you have lower back issues. And remember, movement is so great. So the tighter you feel, the more you want to move, especially if you've been sitting or not moving or have more of a sedentary life, you just want to move. Or if you're limited on sleep, you really just want to get the body to move because it's going to replenish what your body has been missing. Thank you so much for joining me. Comment below which part was most helpful, which part was most challenging, or anything else that you want to tell me. I am here to support you, and I believe in you, and I really want you to feel empowered that you can take care of your body. It's where you live. Thank you again for joining me. I'm Janelle Ross, and I will see you next time.